But I don't understand the allegations. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like you to ask the commissioner that brought that forward in that meeting what is the issues, because I don't get what the issues are, and I don't want to vote on something that I don't understand.
My understanding is that I think Commissioner Schmidt, you brought that forward in education, so I don't know the reason for the. I think it'd be good for transparency purposes if there's a concern or for the removal, if you'd be willing to share. Or okay.
It started. Citizens had reached out to me, and again, I specified this during the committee that this was not directed at Mr. Brown, but there was a Facebook post made by a citizen that said that Don Schmidt was giving Dr. Langford, or somewhere along those lines, I've got the screenshot, that was giving him a blank check for pornography in our schools. After talking with several people throughout my district and family, just to get a better understanding of what was going on with that vote, you know, it just spiraled. More people saw that evidently. The power of social media gets shared around, whether it's up for an hour or whether it's up for 2-3 hours. You know, I was unhappy with some of the commissioners I spoke with that asked me what was going on, that, you know, kind of just swept it under the rug, in my opinion, saying, well, it was only up for an hour. Doesn't matter whether it's up an hour, it's up 3 hours. I've seen this play out with school board candidates, and I see the effect that it has on their families and their lives. So when we came to the Education Committee, I made a motion for Mr. Becker to replace Mr. Brown. Then someone suggested I file an ethics complaint. I said, well, why an ethics complaint? One suggestion was reckless behavior. Well, several months ago, I don't know the exact timing, it's public record, and there's public record requests being made for that information, which I have nothing to hide on that. It's all there in transparency. There was an issue of a school with safety concerns. There was issues there was concerns brought forth by Dr. Langford on this email thread to, and don't want you to take his exact words because I don't have the emails in front of me, but basically, please stand down. You know, take this off the agenda, which was the school in question, security concerns. So I had looked at it, and I believe, you know, I'm not putting words in Mr. Becker's mouth, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he asked Mr. Brown to please take it off too, that this was not going to come up for another several months. I had tried reaching out to him on the email. I said, I cannot, in good faith, basically, I didn't feel comfortable with seeing this on the agenda. Because gosh forbid someone's out there wanting to do any harm to our students, our teachers, our SROs in that school is watching this all unfold and seeing points of vulnerability. That concerned me.
So my question is, I went back and I reviewed quite a few meetings to see, you know, I know what they're talking about, but I went all the way back to when I first became a commissioner, and I started reviewing the meetings to see what was the precedent of what was going on. So in October of 2022, an issue came up with similar allocations for the school system, and it was requested to go back. And one of the commissioners, and I don't want to say the name, I believe it's number 21, I'm for sure, so had said that they were talking about equipment, and it had to do with the panic buttons. And they brought up that the panic buttons didn't work. And I nearly fell out of my chair, because I thought, well, that's like yelling fire in a theater. So all the people in the community got upset and got scared, rightfully so. And so it bothered me that I'm thinking on one hand, we've got one person here that brought to the attention of the school an issue that should be fixed. It should have been fixed years ago. And then I have somebody else who's saying that we got panic buttons don't work, and we have other people that have brought up unsafe things. So my question is when people are trying to help and make things happen and change things, are we going to be penalized for bringing forward issues that need to be addressed? And so is one wrong? Is the other one wrong? And I also think, because I think that's quite unfair. And so are we going to set a precedent so that we can't bring forward things that are critical to the body and feel like, you know, if we do something like this, are we going to get kicked off our committee? Are we going to get in trouble? I don't know. It's not funny, Mr. Pomeroy. So I feel like, you know, I wanted to bring both sides just so that we could think about it. I don't know. I'm not on the committee. I don't day-to-day work with them on the committee, but I do think it's a little bit unfair because we have this happen and then we have other things happen. Other people have said things, and then here we are. But I do think there is some retaliation attached to this. So those are my words, and I don't think it's a good idea. I really think it sets a bad precedent, and that's all I have to say. And you can quit laughing.
So the first thing, we got to look at the real reason why a thing happened. I don't know that I necessarily buy all of the explanation we heard earlier. You know, several items were listed for why this was brought forward, but we got to look at the timing of it. The timing of it happened right after a spat on social media. And we got to be honest with ourselves. This didn't have to do with any of the other policy. It didn't have to do with any other stuff. We're mad at each other about stuff on social media, and we're taking shots at each other. That's what happened here. No other reason for it.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add some perspective to something that one of the commissioners said. While a lengthy answer he gave when Commissioner Janung asked, it seemed very thorough, but I want to give perspective to everybody on the fact that those statements, those derogatory statements that were made towards Commissioner Schmidt were not from Mr. Brown. They were from a citizen that was very close to Mr. Brown. So I don't think that holds water to any of his reasons for doing it. And furthermore, the safety concerns that were stated were decades old. There's been decades worth of pictures of that structure printed over the years that show the safety concern, and it was not a shocker to most people that knew of that place. So, and it was also said in comparison with the fact that we were looking at spending millions and millions of dollars on fixing athletic stadiums when we weren't addressing a safety concern. Lives are at risk here, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. But that was swept under the rug, and I commend Commissioner Brown for bringing it up. Hopefully it gets addressed finally after decades of safety concern where lives were at risk. And then I appreciate her also bringing up the fact that we're considering the replacement, someone who also brought up safety concerns in a public meeting. I mean, what's the difference? We either talk about these things and get them addressed or we don't, but using them as excuses to throw people off of chairmanship, that's ridiculous.
I myself am fixing to take up for my constituents. I live within an eighth of a mile where I've lived for over 50 years. People know me in my neighborhood. They come to me with their problems. They have a problem, a security problem, where their kids go to school. If you have a problem, fix it. Don't slide it under the rug. Don't hide it. Fix it. If there is an issue with security anywhere in this county for the safety and security of our kids, fix it. Some of you have talked about my passion. It's just scratched the surface. I don't think you will find very many people in this county who is more passionate about the safety and security of the kids in this county. If you have if your roof is leaking, do you not fix it? If you have a flat tire, do you keep driving on it or do you fix it? If you have a security problem in this county, fix it. Commissioner Brown, I appreciate your tenacity. But I look at these people in the eye every day, folks. Every day. Every single day. And nothing's been done. If you have a problem, fix it. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for a problem to be fixed. And I appreciate anybody that will help me get it fixed. Thank you.
I think a lot of this started off with the fact that somebody was called a name. I've been called a Nazi by many people, many people. Been called a communist, been called a dictator. And here for 30 years, I fought against those kinds of regimes. I don't see how in the world I could be one of those. I've also been called a racist. I taught in 2 minority high schools where it's 80% black, and the other one was 95% black. I'm a missionary to Sierra Leone, African country. I don't think I can be a racist as far as that's concerned with black folks. As far as the books were concerned, which was the first thing that our commissioner over here brought up, I didn't have a listing of any books. I don't care if they were pornography or whatever. There were no books there. They wanted $200,000, a round number, not 155,969, nothing like that, just a round number. I finally got 2/3 of that listing. That's whenever I put it back on. The photos that were put up on the website, I did not direct those to be put up on the website. I asked that they be distributed to the committee members. We were going to discuss it that way. I was surprised whenever one of the Board of Education members told me that they were on the website. That's when I had it directed. Take them down. Only been up for 6 hours. Then after we had legal review of what took place in the Education Committee. I did a disservice to our law director. I gave him 15 minutes to come up with a decision on a precedent that Mr. Hyde admitted he'd never seen in 31 years. That was my fault. We had an improper motion. We had an improper vote. As I said, that was my fault. I apologize for that. But after we have had a review, we find out that this was not something that should have been done. And again, as Commissioner Teachner brought up, and I was going to bring it up too, we live in a republic where law and order are supposed to be what governs our country. We have a constitution. We don't have a mob. Mobs can take things from you just because they have the majority. Now, Mr. Hyde mentioned during the Education Committee that usually, and also the law director said that the term should be coterminous with the year in which they were elected. That's what it looks like our law director finally came up and said. But I'm going to still continue to fight for things that are improper. Now, that might be something that Commissioner Smith does not see as necessary, but I'm going to continue to do that. Thank you.